done a video about a week ago, and for some reason it didn't record. So this is the first one, Ronnie, where I kind of know a little bit more about you than the first one. I like to do them blind. So while we're chatting, mate.
I suppose the main reason why I like to have these conversations, and I think one thing that we have very common ground on is the fact that we don't have enough of these conversations. And I think men don't have enough of an open forum, of a safe space, of a platform to be able to discuss feelings and obviously our mental health. And we don't often do that. We don't often feel like we're comfortable to do that, and there's not often a space which is deemed acceptable for us to do so. So I think we share some really good common ground in the importance of obviously talking, of kind of rallying around together as guys to talk about our feelings, to talk about our struggles, insecurities, whatever it may be, and have a space to do so, which I think is quite rare in finding that forum and that open space and that platform to do so. So I jumped at the chance to talk to you. I know that obviously you offer that space, you offer that place of comfort and safety for men to be able to do it. You don't often get that on social media. You don't often get that in life, and sadly, a lot of the time you don't often get it in your inner circles as well. So I think as men, it's
Agree.
hard. So I think having a space where you can do that and have a space where you can talk openly, free of judgment, is really important. So I think obviously when we connected and we obviously I kind of knew the amazing things that you do and the platforms that you give, not just guys, but families, men, friends and families, like whoever it may be, that's there to help facilitate that open conversation. I think you give that space and platforms. So I think for me, getting the opportunity to speak with you, I think was just a no-brainer for me. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think you've hit I'm gonna be. Is that a bong behind you?
is it a what?
A bong, the other side.
This side,
Yeah, that.
this.
Yeah.
It's actually a cup of a woman's stiletto.
I was
So
just like, okay, I was just thinking, I'm thinking, oh, we might have to edit this one out, but that's absolutely fine.
just a
Best
cup.
thing in it ever. There's my neuro thing where I just like look at analyze everything. So I apologize, but I think you've hit a nail on the head. And I did a video yesterday, just the Happy New Year thing and blah blah blah. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but whatever.
Yeah,
But it's just, and I said it's fine telling men to talk, 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 but actually there's so much evidence to show that men are talking. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what type of bloke they are. It doesn't matter if they're gay, straight, bi. It doesn't matter that they are talking.
yeah,
But it feels like I don't want to do a sweeping statement of society, but it does feel like doctors and whatever else aren't quite there at listening. Arguably, even like some charities, I stand really strong that any bloke, maybe even a woman or whatever else, could actually start a men's talking, walking, ferret walking group. I knew a guy, he done a drag thing, and I was
oh,
thinking that's absolutely mental. And he's got like loads of blokes what are going up. I think it's in Colchester, like load of boats turning
yeah,
up. But I think the point is just why is it that men society is telling men to talk, which to me seems like a bit of a cop out.
mm,
It feels like blaming the man for it, where actually if anyone starts up a men's group, they'll probably get 10, 15, 20, 30 blokes turn up on the day.
yeah.
And that's just
I think,
showing that blokes are just kind of trusting other blokes more than anyone else. And I think that's nice, but I think that's kind of showing something.
for sure. I think a lot of in terms of, well, I suppose everyone, but in my experience, when you do try to talk to a professional, which is great, you can speak to professionals or doctors, but a lot of the emphasis around what you're talking about is very much the medical side of things, and it's very difficult, I think, to just be open in your feelings. A lot of the emphasis is on why we're talking and the medical side of it, and I think that speaking to professionals and doctors is great. However, I don't think that is going to solve the issue. I think a group where you can have that channel to do so, which is not the medical side of i.e. depression or an eating disorder or low moods or whatever it may be, the emphasis is just actually we're just people and we just need to talk. And I think having groups, as you said, in forums, I think things like that is great for men, and men are talking. I totally agree with you. I think it's not having enough. But I think that's why those spaces are so important because it does allow men to talk. And as we said before, men find it really hard to talk. We're getting there. I think we're on a great path in society of getting people men to talk, and the stigma around mental health and obviously I hate to use the words men suffering or men feeling weak as such, like that's not the case, but society tells us that we shouldn't be talking. I think we're getting there, but I think you're right. I think like somebody setting up some kind of group forum is the way forward. I think obviously you got the professional side of it, which is great, but that's not enough. It's just not enough. That's not going to work. So I think forums and open spaces, and as you said, it doesn't have to be a man setting it up. It could just be somebody to set up a forum for people to talk. And I think that's what's really going to drive us forward because we're not there yet. You're right. Like we're getting there. It's
It,
great to hear.
it is moving, but for me, I personally think it's more of a a snail's pace.
Yeah,
And I think some of the problems is, especially when it comes down to mental health or poor mental health, and I've heard this a lot where they say, I don't, I've never been depressed, so I can't help. I've never had anxiety, so I can't help. Well, actually, you don't need a qualification to be somebody's mate.
yeah, for sure.
And I've heard so many stories of just like, oh, you won't get it, or they won't get it, or I can't help them, or am I making sense? It's just like
Absolutely, absolutely.
we all have life problems, and I think that's why we take a massive step back rather than doing the whole suicide. We do fund suicide research, but we try to nip it in the bud a lot earlier before that enters somebody's head of just actually, do you know what? There's nothing wrong with just airing your problems.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference. I think if somebody, in my experience as well, I mean, I've suffered with poor mental health and I've suffered with depression. I think the industry that I was in when I spiraled was very much image based. It was very much expectations of what I should be as a man, as a straight man, which I was struggling with anyway. Um, and the emphasis sometimes is on depression, where it's nice when somebody just approaches and say, okay, forget the diagnosis or forget you've got depression, but let's just talk, see how you are, what's going on in your life, anything I can help with. Tell me about what's been going on lately. What do you do in your spare time that you enjoy most? I think that kind of conversation, I think, is what we're missing. And I think just being able to, as you said, be someone's friend or an ear for somebody to, talk to or a shoulder to cry on, that really helps facilitate conversations. And I think less of the emphasis, in my experience, of the label, i.e., depression or poor mental health or whatever it may be, and more just like, actually, let's just talk man to man or let's just talk as a friend. And I'm just here to listen. I think that's what we're missing. And I think we're getting there. That's happening. Those conversations are happening more. But in situations like the workplace, for example, in my experience, I don't see that happening enough, where the focus just is on you and whoever you're talking to. And I think that's so integral as the way we move forward. And I love that you said you try and nip things into the bud before it gets to that point. And I think that's the approach. Like that doesn't happen with everybody. People also suffer in silence, so it snowballs. Whereas trying to nip things like that into the bud, or at least speak about the context around why someone might be feeling like they're heading in that direction, I think it's a game changer, an
Yeah.
absolute game changer. So I love that approach that you adopt.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's just it seems to be just what works.
Yeah,
I think that the harsh reality on it as well is so we fund the suicide research with Dr. Susie Bennett, and there's so much evidence that shows that once a bloke, I can't speak for women. I know that suicide attempts is higher with women than it is with men. Let's not pretend that that isn't a fact because that is a fact.
yeah,
But blokes who complete suicide, there's so much evidence. It wasn't a bloke's got emotional crazes and just lost the plot. There are some that let's
yeah,
not pretend there isn't, but most of them are actual, or a lot of them are actual logical decisions. They've planned it out for weeks,
yeah,
months, and some of the stories that I've heard, you're just like, how on earth could you plan that? I've heard stories of sending the family to Disneyland and pretend I've got work, and then emailing the police on a schedule to say that my family's coming back, please come and get me. It's
uh,
just that's not a bloke who's got the emotional who's lost the plot.
No, no, no,
You
that's
can, but I think where I'm going this one, I don't want to make it all sobby. I don't know if that's the right thing, but so I think that's why with our mentality, we're like we are not experienced or qualified enough to deal with those. Once they've made that decision, it's kind of serious. It's
yeah,
got to be hardcore medical thing. So we're like, well, and after having conversations with people, thankfully, who have survived, when I ask them, or even people who have had real bad mental health breakdowns, and I've done videos with them on this, I'll always ask them and say, well, why are we talking like when did like what caused the crazies?
mm,
And it's really weird. It's like you watch them, even face to face. It's like you watch them and they're like, I don't actually know. And the one pattern, what I see over and over again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, I'm just a bloke who's blagging life. The one pattern what I see over and over again is day one's problems escalate into day two, day three, day four, day five. And then it's just so much head fuckery.
yeah.
And it's just, and I've been there myself. And this is why, like I said to you, I don't know if it was recording then, but on the 2nd of January, I'm going wild camping for a few days
Good. Yeah,
because my head's just, it's about to blow. So I'm going to go there. I have to, do you get what I mean? Like survive in minus snow on a mountain in a tent or whatever else. It just resets my brain a little bit. I'm
gives
not,
you a sense of like direction as well. And I
yeah,
think,
no, absolutely. Yeah,
as
I'll
you
go
said,
there.
the
Yeah.
sorry,
No, no, I just think that's what we need to be promoting. Maybe that's all genders, I don't know, but I think more so with blokes is rather than jumping straight to the mental health issues, mental health problems, just sit them down, just say, what do you want to do to help clear your head?
I think it's really heartbreaking when you and you're right when you do see. I've had a friend that's committed suicide, and he was a colleague, and you just wouldn't have known. But obviously he sadly passed away. But as time went on, we found out a little bit more as to what was going on. But there's a park where I live, and it's a gated park. And it's really tall as well, and he climbed over that gate and walked to the back end of the park to where there was a group of like trees, and he sadly hung himself. And as you said, the thought process to for somebody to get to that point where they have to think about how they're going to do it. And I still to this day, it was years ago, I still to this day cannot fathom that he managed to climb over that gate, which was the first hurdle, still walk down around the lake to the trees, knowing that that was what he had planned. And at no point in that like process did he like think to stop. And that breaks my heart to know that men, anyone can do like make a plan, but when men really think it out, that breaks my heart. Absolutely
Yeah,
breaks my heart. And I think that's usually like going away. Like I've had it as well, where I felt, and I've been in dark places to the point where that those thoughts have crept in, but I channeled it. Like I've learned to channel it, and not everybody's like capable of doing that yet. That's something that may come with time. But as you said, going away and being at one with nature, for me, it was stepping into my acting background and being somebody else that wasn't me, helped me channel those kind of emotions. And then that was my plan. My plan wasn't, how's there an end to what's going on in my mind? It was more, right, this is the plan to, get me out of it. And it's really hard to shift that focus. And it's hard for anyone. But I love, as you said, just being away with nature, being away to be able to reset your mind, reset your brain. It's having that to, that let that occupy your mind and let that be the thing that's consuming your mind, and things will be better. But I do appreciate not everyone's there or can get to that point. But I think you're right. The harsh reality is when you hear how people plan things out and they're so certain that this is the right thing to do and it's the only way, it's truly heartbreaking.
yeah, no, it is. And I think we just all took the decision that we can't, and I hate saying it, we can't change that mindset.
Yeah.
But we can change if we can change it a lot earlier. And yeah, it's like we'll always tell blokes to talk, blah 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 blah. But we've now started saying more and more and more of just you need to listen to the bloke, not just people directly in their lives, but doctors, for example.
Yeah.
I think doctors are getting better. To be honest, I know we're like a signposting service now on quite a few of the NHSs.
Oh, wow.
But the funny thing is a lot of the doctors that I know of is if the bloke has been normally in a straight relationship. That seems, I don't know why that is, but normally the missus, as at the end of her tether, sends the fella to the doctor saying, "You're depressed, something's wrong with you, go and get medication." He knows damn well that he's been sent there to the doctors. He know, or that doctor, China or BPC, let's just say the doctor knows damn well that if he prescribes him, or if they prescribe a medication, they're probably not going to take it. They're only
Yeah,
there because they've been dragged there by the partner and all this kind of stuff. And so they say, watch some of the videos on MANUP because there might be some videos that you relate on.
that's incredible, isn't it? That's
It's
incredible.
really interesting, and we've had quite a few messages over the years, like a lot of messages actually, where blokes are like, "Yeah, that's me," and then they go back to the doctors,
One thing I love
or they
about your
do therapy.
page, one thing I love about your page is it's that ability to relate to at least one of those stories. Like you cover an array of conversations with people from all different walks of life, and I think just to resonate with one person is helping. Like if I've looked at a lot of your content, and there's so much I can relate to on there, and I think you're right. Being dragged to the doctors is obviously out of care and love, but it's not to the point where that person truly understands what you actually need. And that's sometimes just to relate to what somebody else is saying, and you'd like to not feel alone. So I think the platform that you have and the stories that you cover and the amazing journeys that people have along your own as well, like it's if you can just resonate with one person, I think that's a game changer. I think people come at all different from all different walks of life, but and people also suffer with the same kind of I hate the word illness, but uh, well, in the diagnosis term, but it's different. There's an umbrella. It's a massive umbrella between
Yep.
an eating disorder or depression or anxiety. So it's not all the same for everyone, which I think is why those conversations are important because you can relate to somebody. And I think for a doctor to signpost people to look at those videos, I think is incredible because again that is from they can help you from a medical point of view, but sometimes those conversations are just not conversations you want to have with your doctor. And you're right, being prescribed stuff, 9 times out of 10. When I was in an eating disorder clinic, I was given a food diary and told that I had to fill it in. I didn't listen. Like I'd go home and I wouldn't do it. The day before my session,
Was that free meals, snacks in between?
yeah, free
Yep.
meals, snacks in between. I had to record a diary. I never did it. I never ate any of it. And I'd fill this diary in on what I thought they wanted me to say. And again, I had nobody to talk about it to. This was coming from a medical side of it. And I think I said to you before, like I never had a man or a guy in my early years of my illness to be able to talk to. And now it's like a game changer. I'm speaking to guys left, right, and centre that's going through things that I went through when I was 17 and what I'm going through now. And I think that for me has helped. And I wish like to rewind 10 years, I wish we were where we are now. I wish we were back then. And I
Yeah.
think this eating disorder would have been a lot easier to navigate. So I think you're right. I think it's seeing those videos and signposting people to the conversations that you're having. For me, I know my experience would have really helped me. So I think it's incredible, what you're doing. And I've said this to you before. I just think it's so that space and that forum is what we need. It's really what we need.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think especially when it comes down to eating disorders and stuff like that, I think it's with more so with men, it is such a taboo.
Yeah,
And I've seen comments like bulimia. I did so I don't know if I said in the video what I cocked up with. Because I remember talking about bulimia and somebody basically said, "Well, you're not a woman."
yeah,
It's just and that silenced me for bloody years. I've never told anybody. And I think it was my wife, Faye, actually, who's the first person I've actually been quite open about it. But maybe that's because she won't mind me saying she said it herself. She had bulimia, so you kind of had that camaraderie.
yeah,
Is that the right
yeah,
word? I think with eating disorder, I think most people, when talking about eating disorders, more so with men, I think they're just scared and they don't know what to do, and they do what's probably the worst thing ever. They kind of ignore them.
yeah. I mean, I'm certainly guilty of that, and I can really relate to what you just said. I remember being at drama school, and I think I said this before. Obviously, I tried my hardest to, hide this eating disorder, but there were certain signs that you just can't hide. The physical side of it is harder to hide than the mental side. But somebody at drama school said to me I was a boy with a girl's illness, and that was nearly 17 years ago now, and it's stuck
I
with me to
I
this day.
still hear I still hear
Yeah,
those comments.
and it's comments like that which sometimes can be hurtful, but sometimes are not intentionally hurtful. People just
Yeah,
don't understand it. But that sort of comment that you've had and that I've had can really just grind everything to a halt in terms of being able to be open and honest about it, because you just feel like I felt ashamed and I felt like God, and I questioned it. I was like, I'm a guy, and is this right then? Am I wrong? Because I didn't think it mattered. But if it's a girl's illness, um, I didn't want to talk about it. And yeah, you're right. Those little comments can play with your mind for years, and it's to this day. I mean, I've been in recovery for 4 years now, but that still hurts me to this day. And it's things like that you can't ever forget.
yeah, no, exactly. And I've I've heard loads and loads of comments like that, and I've had that directed at myself just about bulimia and all this kind of stuff, which, and yeah, it's absolutely shit. But I think I don't know how it can change with like the whole eating disorder world. I think most people do want to help, but I think when I've spoken to other families and stuff like that, and I have got. I'm not going to say too much, obviously. I think there is somebody in my life who's dealing with stuff, and it's a hard one because everyone like you turn into like the black sheep.
Yeah,
Not even just that person, but also like the family, because I realised you don't really get invited to a restaurant or anything like that because you know that the person who you're going to bring with you is going to be a pain in the ass and ruin it.
yeah. That's certainly happened to me over
I
the
didn't
years as
mean to
well.
sound as harsh
Oh,
as
no, it's,
that,
it's
but
true.
yeah,
It's true. Like I mean, my friends have done it over the years. You do, annoyingly, I did feel like the problem a lot of the time, because I think my friends and family, to an extent, when I became a little bit more vocal about it, they tried to understand, but then avoiding certain places and not going, to certain things or doing certain things, they initially thought was helping me, but you know, it was making me worse, because I was like, now at that point I became, God, this is my fault. Now we can't go to this restaurant, or we can't go out for the evening because of this, or we can't, when we go food shopping, we can't have this because this is me and this is my fault. And I think sometimes people think that they're helping, and that's lovely, but it's yeah, it's at the detriment of, us. And it's just really hard for guys. It's taboo. It's so taboo to talk about, but I tend to, like, I honed in on it and felt so alone. And like, I'm a guy with a girl's illness. I don't feel like I can talk to anyone. Nobody talks about it with men. And I think you're right. Doctors and the medical fields and society, to an extent, is getting better now. Where there are more men talking about it and there are more men being open about it. But we've got a lot to do. There's a lot of work to do with stuff like that. I mean, comments like that still exist. People
yeah,
still have that idea that it's mainly women that suffer like this, and men don't have body issues, men don't have eating disorders. That's not something that people associate, but it's not true. Like, we have that when we're getting there. I think you're right, but there's a lot of work
yeah.
to do.
No, there is. Yeah, the one pattern I see with blokes and body stuff is everything's about body dysmorphia.
Yeah,
Everyone just presumes that blokes just and that they are. Let's not pretend that they're not. They're going to the gym like stupid amounts, probably damage themselves, steroids and bulking up and bulking up. And that seems to be a bit of an issue, and social media is blamed for that. I do think social media is part of that problem. But yet again, there's so much focus on that. But there's literally, it just feels my personal view when it comes down to men and eating disorders. And I don't know if you looked at the statistics after COVID,
yes, I did. Yeah,
and it's
absolutely staggering.
and we've uploaded videos, not many, because not a lot of blokes want to talk about eating stuff. Is the video I did with Jack and Harry,
Yeah,
White Weight to Change on YouTube. That got deleted and I had to re-upload it and put in the
really.
appeal. Yeah, there's been a couple of videos where we've spoken about eating disorders in men, but annoyingly, one video I did test, I cloned. I shouldn't have. I was a bit naughty, but we're a charity, so but literally used the wording from somebody else's interview where they interviewed a woman. Bloody good video. I've forgotten what it was. The only thing I did is change the gender in the text.
Wow.
that video's got hundreds of thousands, I think like over 1 million views. This one, yeah, and it's weird. It's like something's in that algorithm, like blip just straight away. But yeah, it's crazy. So so how have you got to? Because the one thing I like about you, I have listened to some of your podcast. I'm not going to say like I'm a super fan and listen to all of them.
Oh
I
yeah,
haven't.
it's an acquired taste.
They are fun. But how have you got to like this moment where? Because you're one of the rare ones where you've had your issues, you've had your crazies and blah blah blah. Is that the same as I have? But you're one of those ones where you're happy to talk about it, you're happy to have a laugh about it and help people, but you've not, I don't know what I'm going to start pointing. Sorry, I just realized I'm
So
warming up to it. I've got to stop doing it. But you're one of those very rare ones, I think, where you don't push your view. It's like you're just happy and comfortable.
think for a big thing for me and a big thing that I love about being in recovery, which was hard, is the effect it has on others. Like that's been like the best medicine for me ever. I think I've definitely had my struggles. I've managed to channel a lot of because with my eating disorder, there was a lot of triggers: stress, workplace stress, relationship stress, kind of the stress of drama school. That would send me into a bit of a spiral, and it took me a really long time to reprogram my brain. I did a lot of like self-care work, studied a lot myself, managed to somehow begin to channel my kind of anxieties into other things. Acting was a big one of them. Um, and then obviously the podcast. The podcast has been going now. We're in our third year now, and
Do
it's
you
it's
want to just plug that one quick? What was that called again?
so the podcast is called Read Between the Wines.
That's it.
It's a comedy podcast. It's I always say when life's shit at the moment, there's a lot of that bad going on in the world. This is a bit of just a comic relief, and it's a poke at life, bit of fun. It's nothing too seriously, but we enjoy it. But for me, it takes on a bit of a deeper meaning because I'm channeling. I like to say success, and success can be anything, but for me, it's like graduating from drama school, having a family, doing the podcast. I've channeled a lot of my energy into that, and that's really helped my eating disorder. But a big thing for me, what I love seeing is people seeing me in recovery and reaching out to me and saying, I'm really impressed. I'm not quite there yet, but I love seeing where you're at and what you're doing. And with Harry and Jackie, like they came to my live show recently, and I, put their podcast up on the big screens, and I really want to show like Harry, and he's making great progress. That actually there's life after an eating disorder. There's life in recovery, and I never let that leave my brain now. I still have blips and moments where I wake up and feel like I've gained a load of weight. I had a pizza last night. I've not done that for a year. And I woke up this morning feeling a little bit rubbish about it. But again, it's me quickly bringing it back into like, actually, do you know what? That is not something to be worried about. You've got all of this going on. Look at what opportunity you have in recovery. So for me, it's very much recovery equals opportunity, and that's what I've lived by. And it really does. It opens your world into life. What life can be like, what opportunity can be like, what happiness can be like outside of the pain. And that's something that I have done now for 4 years. And it's been the most incredible medicine for me. So, as I said, like people just relating to these conversations, which is why I loved and I was so grateful that you invited me on because that does exactly what
Twice.
I'm trying to do. It does it more than, yeah, it does it. People look at my recovery, but then they listen to our stories and they listen, to the conversations that we're having, which is doing that. Or that's doing exactly what I want, and it's people to see that there's life after struggles, there's life after an eating disorder, and if you can just cope and work and have these conversations, there's no reason why you can't, live a comfortable and a happy life, but not afraid to have blips. But yeah, that's mainly it. That's the driving force for me. It's the opportunity, and I love seeing other people thrive as well.
Yeah.
So again, just to echo what I've said, I'm just so grateful that you give that space to show that, and yeah, that's kind of my driving force, and I think it always will be, to be
Yeah.
honest.
So it sounds like, and it's something what I've said quite a lot. Some people got a bit arsy about it, but I think with some mental health conditions, like me, I'm BPD, borderline person, high functioning, one of the good ones. It's just obviously being a player, I've got to be one of the good ones. But it's just I'm high functioning BPD, but I can kind of handle that most of the time. But it's the insomnia that's what I struggle with because if I get the insomnia, that's when the depression kicks in.
like a little cycle, isn't it? Like it's really
Yeah, no,
hard.
no, it's sort of horrible. Hence why I do like these, like I race motorbikes in the summer, blah 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 blah, and all this kind of stuff. But I think I had to one day click. It was like something that was in my head where I had to go, do you know what? I can either suffer from this for the rest of my life or learn to live with it.
Yeah,
I think I've kind of just accepted that the depression, that little, I know the saying black dog, isn't it? It might just be floating around every now and again. The same as like eating. I don't want to trigger you or anything like that. I've spoken to other people. They've just accepted they're probably going to have this eating disorder for the rest of their life.
100% agree. I said, I actually said this week. Like it's not. I'm never going to be cured. I'm always going to be in recovery. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. I've accepted that it is going to be a thing for life. But I think another thing what I try to do when thinking that it's sometimes people that I know, and in particular men, have this bar of perfection which we need to hit, and that could be physically or mentally. With an eating disorder and with my experience of depression, before I get to the point where I just accept that I am going to have this for life, and it may creep in, it may creep out, but that bar of perfection, try and lower it to just the bar of good enough. And we never ever set for that. We never like try and aim for the good enough bar. We always aim for that bar of perfection, which we're never going to reach, or we might think we're getting there and then we'll fall. And for me, that's when the cycle starts again. And I think you're right, accepting that these are not, issues. They're things that everybody has, and we're just accepting it, and we will have it for life. But we can, that's absolutely okay. We can live with that. But let's aim for that bar of good enough and not that bar of perfection. And I think them two hand in hand, and particularly for me, zooming out and just like trying to reach that bar rather than climb that one was integral in me kind of like accepting both of those, that this will be for life, but also I don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be. No, it for men as well, it doesn't have to be perfection. And that not just like I'm not talking about just body here, but your goals in life, your expectations of being a dad or a partner or,
Yeah,
in work, that bar of perfection, just get rid of it. Just let's aim for the good enough. If you don't get it most days, and that's fine. But
yeah,
that bar, lowering that bar, which is acceptable and it's achievable, but that's something that we don't do because we don't talk about it, and we don't tell each other that, oh, it's all right, that's fine. And I think again, I know I keep banging on about like safe spaces and platforms, but that's exactly, kind of what this is and what you do is it's giving that forum to talk about it and actually think, "Do you know what? I'm not the only one that actually struggles with things like this. It's lovely to see that other people struggle. Might be in a different realm, it might be just a different experience, or it might be a different approach, but ultimately, they're fighting the same battle as we are, and we can talk about it and we can manage it, not cure it, but manage it. So I think you're right, like having that expectation of, this probably will be for life, so don't be too hard on yourself if things creep back in, and that's okay.
yeah. No, exactly. Just try and enjoy life.
Yeah,
I don't think we really promote just enjoy life,
no,
however that looks. I think the trouble with like social media and all this kind of stuff, we're built to constantly compare ourselves against other people.
absolutely.
All this kind of stuff. I don't know, like look at the whole influencers or whatever else. Like a lot of what people don't seem to realize is that influencer who's that fitty woman or that stunning bloke. Can you call a bloke stunning? Can you call a
I think
bloke stunning?
I think nowadays you can. I think there
Oh,
probably would
right,
have.
okay. Well, I've said it now, but there you go. But it's what people don't realize is they go to like always Dubai. They go to these places. They take like a year's worth of shots,
Yeah,
and like they've toned themselves right. They've toned themselves literally to look absolutely amazing, and they rinse those throughout the year. And
it's
it's
really hard 'cause people compare themselves to it, and it's
yeah,
you're right. They take it. I've got a few friends, especially being in the acting world. They schedule their posts, and you know, one guy that I know went to like Barcelona about 7 months ago, but literally this week he started to upload the photos. And I've had this discussion with him before. For me, posting stuff on social media, I don't schedule anything. I don't kind of, apart from the podcast, I don't do anything like that. But you're right, influencers do, like the context behind those posts where they look super clean and super polished and natural. It is in fact, there's a lot of work that goes behind it, but they make it look effortless. And in turn, you're right, we do compare ourselves on social media, and we punish ourselves when we look at that and then look at us. We know we're not going to achieve that. Like it's not realistic. And nine times out of ten, those posts are heavily, you know, planned. And you're right, there's a team behind it and a machine behind those posts. And for us, that comparison is it's torture. It's torture for women, but I think more so for men. And like now, where body image is becoming more of a thing, and it's becoming something that we need to focus on.
Mm.
Unfortunately, that's the way the world's gone, and that's the way social media is. Men have to now focus on it and worry about it, and that just adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah, no, it does because I don't know, like if you Google anything about like the perfect man body, which a quarter will say muscly, a quarter of them will say like supermodel thin, and then some of them will say the dad bod. The dad bod seems to, like, once a year just seems to creep round and vanish just really quickly. And then there's like I don't know the other one. I don't know what it is. So I think a lot of blokes are just like completely and utterly confused.
Even like the candles. I know this is a silly comparison, but they do the body candles now. It's usually a woman a really nice woman like, it's like a candle but a body shape. But the man's one is a candle and it's a six pack, and that is a candle. So that body in itself, that was like I saw that and like I was shopping. I was like, for God's sake, like even on things like that, we're being told that that's how we should look, and
Yeah,
that's it's a bloody candle for God's sake. But it's in the shape of a ripped man with a six pack and you're just like, for God's sake, like that's what beautiful and being stunning is now, and it's just not the case at
yeah,
all. And it's hard. It's really hard for men now because that image, is now, unfortunately, like something that we really need to. Well, I say we need to worry and consider. We don't, but we naturally do now, and
yeah,
that's because of what we're seeing, and it's a shame because that's not representative of men in general. I'm under no illusion. I had an eating disorder. I've gained 4 stone this year. And I'm now in a place where I don't want to look like that. But there would have been a time recently that would be like kind of what I'd aspired to be because that's what people are telling me, is attractive, and it's rubbish.
yeah. Can I ask you one question? I don't know if it's appropriate now, so I apologize. And I don't want to trigger you or anything like that, but so I mean no offense. But after speaking with other people about who's had eating disorders, when they say they've put weight on, automatically you think, oh, you should say congratulations. Is that actually because on one hand, I've never asked this question, so if I'm out of line, I apologize.
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
I don't know, like, do you congrats what
It's a hard.
I don't know what the question is, so I'm sorry, but I just feel like I don't go on.
I actually had a conversation with someone. It's like weird to say that because I've actually had a conversation with someone this morning about this, who I know, and I kind of been working with it. I work with a lot of people with eating disorders outside of my work, the people that contact me. I've done a lot with Seed over the years, but I had this conversation this morning, and they told me that they were having a bit of a rough week, and I asked like if there was anything wrong. And they said no, I can't fit into my clothes anymore. Like this person's in recovery, but now the reality of obviously not being able to fit into clothes is quite catastrophic for someone with an eating disorder. And I've been there as well. Like I can no longer fit into half the clothes that I did. And it's hard and it's that response and having to, kind of respond to somebody without saying, well done for, you look well or congratulations. It's hard because in any other situation, I think that would be the right, approach to have and the right response to have. But when it comes to people with eating disorders, I've I tend to tread very carefully on it if I'm honest. And I remember when people used to say I look well, or you look so good, or you look so healthy, and congratulations. Like that was horrible for me. I hated it. Like it for me, it would send me into a bit of a spiral. So I don't tend to congratulate them. I tend to just say, do you know what? You've come so far this year.
Right,
Like
okay, yeah.
you've just done incredible. And I try and reel it back into a conversation that we were maybe having 6 months ago where recovery didn't seem possible. And I kind of almost try and steer the conversation away from that a little bit, but bring it back to, how far they've come. And I'll say, like, God, you remember that conversation we had about 6 months ago when you didn't think that you'd be able to do this, or you didn't think that you'd be able to do that. And I think with Jackie and Harry, I had a conversation with him in London at the start of the year, and I did say to him, like, God, I'm really excited to see where you're going to be in a year's time and where he is now. And he's got like his illustration company, it's blowing up. I said to him like recently, I was like, look at the opportunity you've got. Look how incredible you've done. And I think in those situations where somebody says, "Oh God, I've put on weight," or I can't fit into my clothes," I kind of just steer it away a little bit and just kind of bring it back to why that's happened, rather than let's focusing on that it has happened. Let's just re-rate it, like re-rate it back to God. Like you've done so well this year. Like I'm so proud of you. Or God, like you've done more in 6 months than what I've done in 2 years, or whatever it may be. Like whoever it is, I think you're right. It's a hard one. It's a hard approach to have, and I think I have that approach, but I can't imagine what it's like for friends and family who
Mm.
don't know necessarily how to approach that. Because as I just said, the idea of saying you look well or congratulations is usually a compliment. But for an eating disorder patient, it's really hard to navigate because that's not a compliment. It can be quite damning. So
Yeah.
it's a hard one. It really is a hard one to approach.
Yeah, no, no, it is. For some, thank you for answering. Sorry for putting you on the spot, but
No, it's all right.
that was a brilliant response. So thank you very much. So, but anyway, you're one of those where I know we can keep going and going and going, but we need to draw this to a close. I mean that in a nice way. Plus, it is New Year's Eve as well, and this is the second time you've done this video because I cocked up. I'm going to blame the computer, but so if this is just that bit, you've had practice now. It's just if somebody's watching this, I don't know. I don't really like the word triggered anymore. I think it's just overused. But if they're triggered or they can relate to something, they might even just be having a bit of a pickle, a life pickle. What would you tell them to do? I know it's a hard one to answer. What would you tell them to do? A little bit of word of wisdom.
I would say if whatever it is, whether it's an eating disorder, whether it's just a little blip in life, or it could be grief, it could be, just a low day, it could be, whatever, depression. The thing I would say most is let's just zoom out for a second, just completely zoom out of life and just look at what's around you. Like look at your surroundings, kind of zoom out of everything away from what's going on at the moment and just, you know, be a little bit kind to yourself. And it's not a marathon. Whatever we're going through is not, sorry, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, in life. That's the way things are. Don't have too much pressure on yourself. Don't feel alone, but just zoom out for a minute and take some time, whether that be time away from social media, whether that be time away from work, time away from, whatever it may be, and focus on you. Focus on, the importance of you, what valuable you are. And, as you said, things like channeling, going away to channel, your mind and, resetting your mind. I think that's so important. So my advice would be, when life feels like it's getting too much and you tend to feel alone, just sit down, zoom out and, remember who you are, remember why you're here. And then just focus on that. Every day is different. Take it day by day. Don't have an expectation. And don't reach for that bar of perfection. Don't even reach for that bar of good enough to begin with. Just take your time. Take your time. Focus on who you are, and just remember why you're here, and that you've got a value and you've got a purpose in life. And these feelings that we have, they might not go, they might not ever go, but the clouds do pass. So don't, stick in it, stick at it. And I think that's the way I've always just, I've approached these situations. It's like I think sometimes life is a bit of a camera to zoom out and just
Mm.
take some time and, take it day by day, no expectations.
I'm going to be rinsing that little bit of a clip for a good couple of years, mate. I'll be honest with you. So every now and again, you'll start seeing these little tags. I'm like, oh, fucking Dan's doing that. Fucking. So I apologize. But it's just, I don't know the tone real talk, but it's just, it's not wrong, mate. It's really not. It's just, there we go. I don't know what I was trying to say there, so I apologize. But it's just,
Oh,
that was a good video, my friend.
no, I've enjoyed it. I mean, in a way, I said to you before, like I could talk to you for ages. So it's not the end of the world that we've had to jump on again. I think it's good to have that conversation. I said to you last week that it was very like it's like medicine for me as well. Like having this space to talk about it with you. I don't often talk about it anymore. I think because people know that I'm in recovery, we don't often talk about it.
Yeah,
And I think it's every now and again it's lovely to be able to sit and remind myself of why I'm here.
yeah.
And it's conversations like this, and platforms like what you give, which enable me to do that. So I just, yeah, as again, like, thank you so much for giving men, the safe space to be able to do it because there's not many forums out there for us to be
No,
able to do.
there's not, especially not, especially public ones. That there really isn't, where literally you can just pick a bloke and or read a title and someone there. There are groups and all this kind of stuff, but they tend to be behind closed doors. But
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that. There really is. I'm certainly not anti-groups, and we've supported a few of them. But I think for me, this is just anybody in the world can watch this stuff, and they might not like me, even though I'm a really lovely bloke. But they'll listen to you and go, I haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
Let me hear the unrecord button because I know we're about to start off again. Let me know.